All right. Good morning. Good morning. We are live from the Hive Saturday.
Right. Good morning.
Oh,
Good
let me
morning.
mute that.
We are live from the Hive.
Sorry, this setup is not great, but it'll work for me. Anyway, hello. Welcome to the Hive. Welcome to Saturday morning with the Hive. I am Bree, your host. This is Live from the Hive, where we talk about all things skepticism and science every Saturday morning. I don't usually have this layout. I usually have a OBS layout. So this is oversimplified, but right now this is the best I can do. I'm happy to be here. Um, I think Bugbot is here, but Bugbot is not going to be able to respond to.
I think Bugbot is here.
Yeah, Bugbot's here, but they're not going to be able to respond to commands right now because the OBS is out. So, sorry, SR. I know you like to have Bugbot sting everybody and get your anxieties out that way. Uh, but we will persevere. We are going to do the best live from the Hive that we can do every Saturday morning until I'm able to get my OBSs back, and uh, we will we'll do the best we can, and we'll continue to talk and do our show, and I will continue to interact with you, lovely people out there in the live chat as well. I just want to say hi to everybody. Good morning, Sandy. My good friend Sandy. It's nice to see you here. Looks like we have Native Atheist. Greetings. Uh, Greg Hartwick, who has a deep sea anglerfish problem in their backyard. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad you were able to make it in this morning. I know you were. Before I went to sleep, I was talking to you. So, yeah, we are happy to see you here in the Hive. Ring, awesome. Happy Shark Week to you. I am happy to see that somebody else recognizes that Shark Week is not just a Discovery Channel gimmick, but it's a shark awareness situation. My birthday is actually the start of it. July 14th is Shark Awareness Day, and that's my birthday. So I do like the sharks. For me, it goes spiders, uh, well, let's say spiders and bugs. We'll put those in one category. Yeah, bugs, because I'm going to put dinosaurs all in one category. I'm going to put sharks all in one category. Those are my top three. Number 4 is big cats. In case you wanted to know, I love carnivora. The clade carnivora are amazing. Who else? Oh, I was saying hi to everybody and I got distracted talking about sharks. Because a ring. Yes, I love Shark Week. I love shark. Look at the trees. Good to see you. Getting some blood in the water. And yeah, SR, Mark Caesar. I think I saw Randy. Yep, Maya's here. Oh, goodness. We got Gary. Hey, Cadence. Manda, it's so good to see you. Yeah, if you were wondering what happened to me last night, Manda, in case I did not make it into bins, I took a shower because I needed one, and then I ended up talking to Andrew about blue death feeding beetles for. How long did we talk last night? We were talking about different stuff, but we started off talking about blue death feeding beetles, and I had one out. I'm like, oh, I got to show them because they're asking about it. And yeah, but that was fun. So that's what I ended up. That's what I ended up doing. Doubting Thomas, good morning. And Shark Week, okay. Yeah, let's bring that up because that's going to be relevant to the show today for sure. Because I'm talking about sharks. At least on my first little segment, I'm talking about sharks. But I want to talk about little Bree. This is where Bree and the boy I was pretending to be came into conflict because Shark Week is something that I would rarely miss. Yeah, we chatted. We chatted for a while though. It was a good time. Thank you for hanging out with me. As Amanda can probably let you know is that I need a constant adult supervision anymore. So I appreciate all my friends for helping me keep it together through trying times. I love you all. And I love everybody who comes in to watch live from the Hive too. Wow. Because I know that you all watch tons of content and channels and stuff where it's just folks talking on StreamYard. I'm not used to that. I've always done my stuff through through OBS. So I've always had my own decorations and channel art and stuff. So to me, this feels really lame and uninspired. But I know, again, like I was saying, everybody else, so many other channels will do some kind of StreamYard layout, but they're usually like panel shows, though, like Gurr and Math Pig, and more so the Raging Atheist. And I was on I was talking to Andrew. I was also hanging out with Oz last night. Let's not forget that me and Oz had some fun conversations about what did we talk about? I got there was a guy talking about maths and the philosophies of maths, and that was way over my head. But then we actually got to talk about child abuse, especially child abuse associated with religious groups. So that was an interesting conversation. That was on Tang. Tang. Maybe it's still Tang. I don't know why. I was like, oh wait, yes, no, it's Tang. And so if you missed that, we went about maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes, just me and Oz talking about that stuff. It was a fun time. Anyway, Shark Week was really part of my childhood, and I was always torn to be, because when I was a kid, I'd be like, oh, I want to go out and play, but I want to watch Shark Week. So there was always that weird little quirk about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. But for Shark Week, some of my earliest memories are deciding I wanted to do some kind of show or something where I talked about animals was watching Shark Week and engaging with the content and like looking up the different sharks and books and things like that. And it was just part of my childhood. So much part of my childhood. Now, Shark Week came around as really got established more so in the late 90s and early 2000s. I was a little bit older, so I kind of as I grew older. Moved away from that kind of stuff until I got to my, I want to say late 20s maybe, and then I got back into wanting to do learn science and animals and stuff, and that's what brings me here, because I still had all that knowledge in my head from doing stuff like that, watching Shark Week. But my grandpa had these volumes and volumes of life or Time Life books, not time. Well, he had Time Life books too, but I'm talking about like Early Man and the primates. What were those nature books? Yeah. Anyway, my brain was already stuffed to capacity with all this animal facts. I didn't have anything to do with it all. So thank you guys for being here for me to dump them on. And that one of the animals that I have tons of animal facts about is sharks. So let's talk about sharks this morning. And sharks have been around in a visibly homologous form. It's a copious amount of homologies with modern forms for millions, hundreds of millions of years. They were one of the first highly successful predatory vertebrate groups. Most sharks are still predatory, though some do scavenge and such. Good morning, Critical Cupcake. Oh, and yeah, you knew the scientific classification of sharks when you were 6 years old? Yes, I always like looking at the different identifying features, and we're gonna talk about that because today in Cryptic Corner, we are. We're not going to do the entire screen though. Sorry, still getting used to the layout. Hang in there with me. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pop this out. There we go. And that way it's not all in one tab when I go to share it. Now let's try that. Is that Junk Shop Library? Oh my gosh, Junk Shop Library. I love when you make it to a live streaming of Live from the Hive. I'm so grateful to see you there. I guess we'll go with that one. I'm just going to share you guys for a minute. But then we're going to get over here and make sure that is. Yeah, okay. So here we go. Let me know. Make sure that you guys can hear everything all right and see everything okay, because we are going to pop that sucker out to full screen. And we are going to be talking about
mostly about the question whether it's still.
We're going to be talking about Megalodon, one of these top 5.
No other prehistoric animals have divided opinions more than the Megalodon. Mostly about the question whether it still exists or not.
Okay, so we start off right out of the gate with a big old fallacy that Megalodon, there's some kind of dispute between the authority on ancient sharks that whether or not this creature still exists. Early on, when we started studying Megalodon, I got how far into the video before I had to stop? 10 seconds. 10 seconds into the video, literally, before I had to stop and correct a mistake. So this is going to be fun. Buckle in. So when we first started finding Megalodons and dating their teeth, I think it comes up in this video at some point, there was a interpretation of some of the teeth that gave them a young age as young as 12,000 BCE. So that is really, really recently. That is the Pleistocene Holocene extinction event, sometimes called the Anthropocene. Well, the Anthropocene is more so modern times, I guess. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, it's when humans started killing everything. And that's when they think, that's when at one point that they would present a case that Megalodon went extinct, but that has long since been debunked. These are animals mostly of the Miocene epoch, which is further back. The Miocene ended about 2 million years ago. So we're at very least 2 million years removed from this fish, though I will say that does mean that there were hominids present at the same time that there were Megalodon. And if at some point one of our early hominid ancestors found themselves at sea to swim to, another island or to escape a disaster of some kind of fire or something, they could have very well found themselves at the mercy of a Megalodon, but they would have been non-human hominids. Anyhow, let me check on the chat real quick here. You blame Steve Alton ring. That's fair. That's fair. Steve Alton did present a living Megalodon case, but there was other things that came out of that crack too. But anyway, 10 seconds in, we've already went on a tangent. So let's see if I can stay on track.
While a lot of experts definitely say that these monsters are long gone, there are still some who fervently believe that they still roam the Earth's waters. Many sightings of the mighty fish have been reported through the decades, some of which are so compelling that it's really hard not to believe that these monsters died out millions of years ago.
Be prepared to be compelled by these megalodon reports. Ready?
The number one sighting is particularly curious, so stay tuned for that.
We
Here are
certainly
10
will.
sightings of the megalodon that may prove it still exists. Number 10. An unverified attack. Let's start things off not with an actual sighting, but with the possible outcome of a close encounter with a megalodon.
Okay, we're going to have lots of misunderstandings about tapophony here, the decay of living organisms. So we're going to buckle in on that one too.
A few years ago, a photo surfaced on the internet showing a beached whale. While seeing a beached whale is already strange and sad in itself, there is something that sets this event apart from the rest. The whale's entire tail is missing, and it looks like it's been bitten off by something large. The most compelling thing about the photo is that you can clearly see bite marks around where the tail should have been. Now, this is a
I'm not 100% sure on those bite marks, but to me, in my humble opinion, looks like it could have been easily caused by a boat propeller that hit the whale post-mortem. But
70-foot humpback whale, one of the largest animals in the oceans. Who could have done such a thing? Now, while it is true that orcas or killer whales have a habit of hunting and feeding on whales, it isn't known whether they can take on a whale of this size.
It is known that they can take on a whale this size because orcas hunt the largest whales in the world. They hunt blue whales. I've seen footage of it, and it's brutal. I'm not saying that they hunt the largest blue whale that ever existed. Maybe they hunt the smaller ones, but this is not a blue whale. It doesn't get nearly that big. I don't think this has anything to do with orcas, though, so we're going to move right on past that. This is clearly, those bite marks do not match up with the bite marks you would expect to see on a mammal from an orca bite. If it was an organism, would have it would have more, whatever would have caused that damage would have had more great white-like teeth, which the megalodon really did not. They were megatooth sharks that had a very distinct tooth structure because they were hunting whales that have large, dense bones, and just having the meat shearing teeth of a great white shark just wasn't going to suffice to get through all that.
Nice. Plus, experts believe that the tail was shorn off in one bite. The only animal with the size and strength to possibly do this is...
Experts citation needed.
You guessed it, the mighty megalodon.
Wait, hold
or
on.
maybe a sperm whale, but they got no reason to go after the... You guessed it, the mighty megalodon can take on a whale of this size. Plus, experts believe that the tail was shorn off in one bite. The only animal with the size and strength to possibly do this is, you guessed it, the mighty megalodon. Or maybe a sperm whale, but they got no reason to go after these guys.
Why is the megalodon the only animal that could have done this? What about a mosasaur? What about a Liopleurodon? Why is just the megalodon the only animal that could have possibly done this? Why couldn't it have been done by a Tyrannosaurus Rex or a Deinosuchus? There's other animals. I guess because if it was a Deinosuchus, it would have been twisted off, right? Is Deinosuchus still alive? This whale corpse proves it. Just silliness.
Number 9. Unusually young teeth.
Yeah.
Still yet another sighting. I promise we're going to get into those in a bit, but there's also something pretty compelling here. This story has something to do with the British ship HMS Challenger, a former small warship that was converted into the first dedicated oceanographic ship with its own laboratories, microscopes, and other scientific...
From where we get the term Challenger Deep, which is a depth measurement it's up by the Marianas Trench. It might be part of the Marianas Trench, but anyway, they're gonna give us location.
Scientific equipment on board.
Anyway,
its job was to explore the oceans and discover new animals that had never been previously discovered, mostly by dredging the bottom of the ocean and see what they can drag up. While it was dredging a seabed near Tahiti in 1875, it pulled up a pair of megalodon teeth. Over the years, dating of the teeth has produced mixed results. Some dates fall to the 10,000 to 15,000 year old range, and that's a far cry from 1.5 million years ago, when megalodons supposedly went extinct. If the dating is accurate, megalodons have survived to a far later time than previously thought. And if they made it to as late as 10,000 years ago, who's to say they aren't roaming the oceans today? Number 8.
That's the young teeth I was talking about. You know, it's basically they're saying that these dating methods, and that's a problem with dating certain things that have been in marine environments. It's one of the citations of all younger creationists actually uses. There was like a seal bone or something that was dated, and it dated to a different, like a time way off from where it was. And yeah, just take that into consideration, and they do take that into consideration. They've adjusted the dating for the megalodon teeth. It's already been, they've already looked into the error on that and kind of sorted it out and figured out what's going on. Yes, I would have loved for megalodon to have existed 12,000 years, 15,000 years ago, alongside living humans. That would be wild. And just keep in mind as we go through this video that they are going to continue to go with the Alton interpretation that megalodon is also like a giant great white shark, which is not the case. As I was saying, they have megatooth sharks with odonta. They're not carcharodon megalodon anymore. So, or Otodus megalodon. They're an odontid shark, a megatooth shark. Oh, I said odontid. That is dragonflies. But yeah, the Otodus. They're these very specific, very niche-driven, warm sea giant sharks that specialize in preying on Miocene to early Pleistocene cetacins, whales. So yeah, that was their niche. So they're going to be very distinct looking, have distinct physical characteristics that are very different from what we see with great white sharks. They aren't just giant great whites like they're often depicted in media.
The Google image. Ever since Google Maps was launched, a lot of people have been finding strange things on there. Some are easily explainable, like glitches on the photo or misidentifying certain things or animals to be something totally different. An example is one recent viral photo, which many thought to be the proof of the Kraken, which turned out to be, well, just a rock. The image reportedly shows a Google Map image in the Bahamas. In it, you can clearly see the silhouette of an extremely large fish. Could it be a whale shark, the only living animal that could even remotely match what's on the photo? Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
But if you see the photo, there's something a bit off with the shape for it to be a whale shark. Of course, it is a bit premature to declare this to be a megalodon, but
or
what are the other
shark.
possibilities barring the whale and basking shark? Number 7.
It's almost always a basking shark, isn't it? Ring can attest to that if Ring's still here. Yeah. It's almost always the basking shark. The dodo, nerdy. The dodo was around up until fairly recently, up until modern colonial, to the colonial era. Excuse me, I got a little bit of frog in my throat. That extinction event I was talking about, where we went around and killed everything, it didn't reach Oceania until the 2nd century CE. So that's when we started being detrimental. Of course, we started in the Atlantic. We wiped out things like the great auk, which was the original the original penguin. Where that word penguin applied to was the great auk, auks in general, and we wiped out the sea mink. But then later on, starting right around the 1500s, when we really started exploring the Pacific, that is when we started wiping out things like the dodo. The Polynesians came before us, and they did wipe out some of the more specialized indigenous creatures, like the giant moas, for instance, or the elephant birds. The first people to arrive wiped them out, but Europeans came and kind of finished the job, and that's where the dodo went. And rats were always the problem when it came to wiping out these birds, Nerdy. I just want you to know that brown rats were the issue. One of the, well, not the only issue, obviously. They were the biggest issue because they were detrimental to the eggs of these birds that needed. They took a lot of energy. Most of them laid just one or maybe a couple of eggs, and yeah, they were not able to fend off the rats from eating them. I got off on a tangent again. Damn it, Nerdy. Oh, it's all makeup. Mark Caesar. I guess if he wants to not makeup, go watch that Ting stream from last night, and you'll see. But thank you. I appreciate the compliment. I'm getting so much better at doing makeup. I have lots of cool people helping me with it. But let's go to the Cape Town photo.
Cape Town photo. This piece of evidence caused both a sensation and an uproar, dividing mainstream scientists and those who are keeping an open mind. This very famous photo shows an extremely large fish swimming alongside German U-boats, reportedly taken just off the coast of Cape Town, South Africa, during the height of World War II over in 1942. The photo even shows German sailors looking at the monstrous beast as it swims alongside the submarines. Using the length of the subs as a basis, the length of the fish, just from the dorsal fin to the tail, is a whopping 64 feet. Many have claimed that this is undeniable evidence that the megalodon still exists today, or at least one was still alive in 1942. However, a lot also says the photo was faked, and it was the Discovery Channel, the ones who showed the photo in the documentary about Megs, was behind it all.
Which is the fact. That is not just, it's allegedly. No, they made this photo. They made this photo, guy. It's just like the pterosaur photo that we talked about on our Civil War pterodactyl video a couple weeks back. It's been a couple months back. But it's the same difference. This is made for the documentary. It's Blair Witchy Neil. It's making you or paranormal activity business. What was it? Mermaids. The body found.
If the photo is proven to be true, it's definitely a game changer, and it would be enough to change minds of people who have been saying that the megalodon is already extinct. Number 6. The David Stead sighting. In 1918, the ichthyologist David Stead recorded a strange unease among the lobstermen of Port Stephens, Australia. Although their livelihoods depended on the sea, the men could not bring themselves to venture out to their favorite crayfish spot near Broughton Island for fear of what they had just seen. They had reported seeing a monstrous, ghostly white shark of such mind-boggling size that apparently no one could agree exactly how big the Leviathan was.
Yeah, wait till you hear these measurements, guys. I've looked into this case before. The big white, like Moby Dick white shark of Australia.
The shark was big enough to swallow several lobster pots at least, but the size estimates Stead drew from the workers ranged from 115 feet to an absurd 300-foot minimum.
What on earth would a 300-foot... Because if you look at a great white shark, it's a macro predator. It preys on big stuff. It doesn't... they can eat fish and what have you, but generally they're preying on fairly large prey items. They're not... So what would be the benefit of being 300 foot? I guess you could prey on whales, but the caloric intake that you would need to sustain that, I don't know. Anyway,
Shark, which Ted believes to be of the White Death type, was a remnant of a very real species that sculled the seas for millions of years. Of course, I'm talking about the megalodon. If Stead was right...
Let's just be clear right now. Megalodon nowhere near approached 100 feet. Megalodon definitely nowhere approached a minimum of 300 feet. Holy moly. Even its giant teeth on an animal that big, it'd be comparable to like a basking shark's teeth. Because basking sharks still have teeth. They're just really tiny. That's how the size of the megalodon's teeth would be compared to its body if it was 300 feet. No, excuse me. I have some dust in the air in here.
Right about his size estimates, there may still be a living megalodon, or even a living population out there at sea. Although, I will admit that's a little absurdly big for a megalodon, though. Number 5. On a Mexican beach. Yet another piece of evidence that has divided millions. But if you're a staunch believer in the
Why is this evidence dividing millions? We are going to look, they're going to get close to this animal. Why is this dividing anyone?
continued existence of the megalodon, then this video footage will surely be enough for you. Footage emerged of a beach shark, reportedly in some beach in Mexico. While you could say that this could just be a great white shark, it definitely looks larger than anyone I've seen. And do you know what kind of shark whose size much closely resembles its megalodon? I think we can all kind of, come to a conclusion on that one now. Of course, skeptics will always tell anybody who would listen that it's just a beach great white shark. But the fact...
No, it's not a beach great white shark. It even says right there in the report you're reading. Let's look at this. A 26-foot long dying shark washed ashore Tuesday on Long Island Beach. The New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation said the male basking shark, which weighed an estimated 5,000 pounds, was measured at 26 feet 6 inches. Died shortly after authorities arrived on the scene, according to the marine educator Tracy Marcus of the Cornell Cooperative Extension. Marcus, who was at the beach at the time, said there was no outer abrasions on the shark, ruling out the possibility of a boat strike, and the cause of the shark's death was unknown to investigators. Basking sharks can grow up to 35 feet in length and are the second largest fish in the ocean after the whale shark, Marcus said. The basking shark, which is non-threatening to humans, feeds mostly on plankton and smaller fish. Yeah. So, that was back in 2009, by the way.
The fact is, there are no great whites that could even possibly reach that size. That's according to my research, at least.
Wait.
Then there are also people who would say that...
Look at that. Look at that mouth. Did a dentist come and remove all this great white shark's teeth? Did they pull this guy on it? Is that what they did? And removed all the teeth from it so that it was a friendly great white shark and put the star on top of the Christmas tree?
The size, as reported, was greatly exaggerated. But then again, video evidence doesn't lie. But as they...
Video evidence doesn't lie, but you do, even when the information's right up on the screen in front of you.
They say, no amount of evidence, no matter how convincing, is enough for skeptics.
Right.
I guess someone will need to catch a megalodon
That's not
or
evidence
at least capture footage of one in the
It's not evidence for megalodon. This is just a basking shark.
wild. And speaking of footage, number 4, the Black Demon. The black demon shark is an enormous black shark whose territory is said to be just off the coast of Mexico's Baja California peninsula.
Any Monster Quest fans out there? Black Demon first came on my radar through Monster Quest, and I did lots of research into it. I have my own thoughts about what Black Demon is, but let's see what they want to say.
In recent times, several local fishermen have reported seeing the black monstrosity. The black demon is said to be 20 to 60 feet long and weighing anywhere between 50 to 100,000 pounds. It is said to resemble a great white, but with very dark coloration and a truly monstrous tail. In 2009, the TV series Monster Quest dispatched a film crew to the Sea of Cortez to investigate the claims from American sport fisherman Eric Mack, who was sailing off the coast of Baja in July of 2008 when he encountered an unidentified creature that met the legend's description. The ocean-dwelling monstrosity, if it exists, has been suspected of being an oversized gray white, perhaps with melanism, which is the development of dark...
I would speculate if it's an animal with melanism, it's probably a whale shark with melanism. Let's see what they say.
...colored pigment in the skin, or the opposite of albinism. But, of course, the more popular
albinism
theory is that the supposedly extinct megalodon still roams the coast of Baja. So, swimmers beware. Number 3. The Coast Guard footage. Aside from sailors, who obviously spend most of their lives at sea, the guys who are most likely to catch footage of the mighty Meg would be the Coast Guard.
Now, we've seen this footage before. We're going to look at it again. We talked about this on our deep sea TikTok stuff, but
their rescue helicopters,
the
they would
again.
have the
It's just
perfect
exciting.
vantage point to spot anything lurking below the waves.
Mhm.
And in this rather controversial footage, they might have accidentally found the elusive megalodon. The Brazilian Coast Guard caught sight of the monstrous fish while attempting a rescue at sea. At first, the Coast Guard officers didn't notice the giant shadow swimming past them beneath the waves, but after reviewing the footage later on, they couldn't believe their eyes. If the size of the shadow was of any indication, the animal was upwards of 60 feet long. Of course, it could have been another large fish, primarily the whale shark, but there is one glaring flaw in that assumption. Whale sharks don't swim anywhere near Brazil. Furthermore, the footage has been analyzed by countless experts, and there's no way that it could have been doctored. With this, the video has been touted as the best evidence for the continued existence of this beastly shark.
What about this image though makes them? And I get that, yeah, it's inconclusive as to what it could be. And yeah, and I'll take your word for it that whale sharks don't live in this particular region. What about this image makes you think it's a megalodon? What physical characteristics of this organism matches up with megalodon? That's what I don't get. I keep saying, oh, it can only be megalodon. There are so many things living in the ocean now that are large, that look large and will appear large on camera. There are other, if they want to go with it, it's an ancient organism that's held over from a previous geological period. Then there are more things than just megalodon as well that could be this big and make this kind of shadow. It's not conclusive, and I don't understand why it could only be megalodon on all these things. Anyway.
Number 2, the Zane Grey sighting. Pearl Zane Grey was an American author and dentist best known for his popular adventure novels and stories associated with the Western genre in literature and the arts. He idealized the American frontier. Riders of the Purple Sage was his best-selling book. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. What does an award-winning novelist with a penchant for writing westerns have anything to do with megalodons? Well, he believes he actually saw one, or rather a shark too big to be, and to quote him, a harmless white shark. Strong words. In the novel,
whoever said white sharks were harmless. Harmless white shark? What? No. Now, white sharks can be approached, and they can, humans can swim with them. They're not monsters, but you got to be careful around them because they're giant predatory fish.
Megalodon, Fact or Fiction, Rick Emmer writes that Gray claimed to have seen one of the man-eating monsters of the South Pacific, a shark much longer than his 30-40-foot boat. Apparently, the shark was yellow and green, with a square head, immense pectoral fins, and a few white spots. It does have to be stated that Gray himself didn't say that he thought what he saw was a megalodon. But what other shark could there be?
Wait, yellow-green with white spots? Yellow-green. Maybe like olive color. Let's think about that. With white spots. It doesn't even sound like there's any question that he's describing a whale shark there. Am I right? Am I right? Am I the only one hearing that description saying you are describing a whale shark? How is this happening? How is this happening right now?
Before we move on, do me a favor. My analytics show that only about 15% of you watching are actually subscribed. Come on, guys, what's up with that? Can you guys...
Well, I'm not going to subscribe because you keep lying to me. You keep lying why the information's right on the screen to contradict you.
Please hit the subscribe button. You guys watch my videos every day anyway, so you might as well subscribe and keep up to date with every video we put out. Number 1. The Great Barrier Reef sighting. The Great Barrier Reef is one of the world's largest marine habitats, serving as home to millions of fishes and other sea creatures. Although most of it is readily accessible, scientists believe that they still have much to learn about the reef. In fact, there still may be
much to learn about the reef before we kill it. The Great Barrier Reef is suffering greatly right now from oceanic acidification. So we need to learn as much as we can about it before it's gone.
A lot of unknown species left to be discovered. In line with that, the Great Barrier Reef may also be the perfect hiding place for a species long thought extinct. In the 1960s, along the outer edge.
Yeah, because there were shallow sea animals, but I don't think you would want to, that they would, in reef environments were present where megalodon teeth are found. But the reef isn't necessarily the best place for a huge animal like this to thrive.
Of Australia's Great Barrier Reef, an 85-foot ship experienced engine trouble, which forced them to weigh anchor for repairs. Although the men subsequently refused to openly report what they had seen for fear of public ridicule, the captain and his crew later told friends of sighting of an immense shark as it moved slowly past their ship. Whitish in color, they were awed by its size. It was as long, if not longer, than their boat. Experienced men of the sea, they too were certain the creature was not a whale. So what was it? Other writers, such as author Rick Emmer, suggest it could have been Megalodon. Did any of these sightings make you believe that the Megalodon still exists? Let us know in the comment section down below. Want to watch more videos about amazing animals? Click on any of the videos you see on your screen. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Later, everybody.
All right, so that was the top 10 sightings of megalodon that may prove it exists. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I do not feel as if any of that even presented a case that could be inferred as having been a megalodon. None of those, you could say that they were large sharks. Megalodon does not mean oversized shark, or definitely does not mean giant great white shark. So that's yeah, let me see. I saw some comments up here about the sharks too. Let's see. You got to wonder about the accuracy of the clip when he referred to the boat as 30 to 40 feet. Yeah, how accurate can that measurement be if they can't even know how big their own boat was, right? Yellow and green should never be seen unless it's upon a shark. Well, yeah, I think that. So the whale shark, I showed pictures of them as well, but I just wanted to give an idea of, how this organism is spotted. And we see it, most of the pictures we see of them, they have like a brownish tint to them, but you need to remember that most of the time we're looking through the water, and like me and Andrew we got to talking about last night too, about the way that light refracts through water, that only the blue light really pops down here, so they look very brown, but they get up to the surface, they have a much more yellow hue to them, or a lighter like olive green color. I'm trying to see if I can find a picture of one on the surface that's real, because the reconstructions are obviously going to be the same colors, but they look like when they're under the water. But interesting ways that that light refracts off of their. Well, there you go. You can kind of see it there. You see the yellows that are really lost when it's seen in the blue environment of the ocean. But once you get closer to the surface and some more of that green and red light wavelengths get in there, it makes that yellow pop out a little bit more. So, yeah, I think that the spotted shark was a whale shark. No one has talked about whale peen yet, but this show's just getting started. That was just the first segment. So, more than 50% of the Great Barrier Reef has been destroyed, bleached due to the rapid warming oceans due to climate change. Yep, oceanic acidification as related to climate change is destroying not just the Great Barrier Reefs, but all reefs all over the globe, including the rare biomes that we call cold water reefs. that or hold some of the rarest organisms in the world. Let's see. And dog wants to come be controversial. To be fair, Bree, conservationists are desperately trying to introduce new coral to the reef, but they're probably fighting a losing battle as the new coral is trying to migrate. Yeah, if it doesn't like the environment, right? Amanda, has there been damage to the Great Barrier Reef? Also, has there been fertilizer content to the river's outflow? Yeah, megalodon is only proven through fossil teeth and spinal cartilage. Fossils take millions of years to form. So, right, yeah, so we're just going to assume that everything's a megalodon, even though all we know about them is what their teeth looks. All we know about them for sure is what their teeth looks like and what their spinal columns look like, what a vertebrae looks like. We know, but we do know that what their ecology was like. So we know that what they were eating and where they were living. That's where we get a lot of our inferences about what their size and behavior and morphology would be like. Let's see. Yes, Andrew, some of the damage has to do with pollutants, although more to the species inhabiting it than the reef itself. However, it is rapidly warming. That is the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem for so many things right now. Let's see. All right, so that was we talked about megalodon today for live from the Hive's Cryptic Corner for our Shark Week special. I'm going to continue to do sharks for the rest of July, which means we got one more episode. It's going to have a shark thing. I don't know if it's going to be in Cryptic Corner. It's going to be in HiveScience. Last week it was in HiveScience News. So we will see what the future holds there. But if you are prepared, I would like to move on to Creation Watch, because this popped in my feed and I'm going to talk about the Hotzen. This is evolution news. If you ever need some place to go for a chuckle about bad science, this is the place to go, because this is the Creationist anti-evolutionary crowds articles. They are talking about, excuse me. They are talking about a bizarre bird highlights the problem with biogeography. You think so? See, I mean, and let's look at just to give you an idea what kind of content we're dealing with before I start reading this. Examining Professor Dave's absurd attack on Casey Luskin. Professor Dave is amazing and sexy, but Professor Dave is great at debunking creationism. And Professor Dave took down Frank Turek like a boss. It was amazing. I don't know about his thing with Casey Luskin. I haven't looked into that, but just to give you an idea, Professor Dave is a science educator, has great videos on science education, not specifically or strictly dunking on creationists. That's just tertiary. That's the same as me when I talk about this stuff. It happens to overlap with their science denialism, and that's the main thing I want to talk about is debunking myths, falsehoods, and yeah, it's, to me, denying evolution is right up there with Ghost and whatnot. So let's see how we move beyond Darwin to the miracle man, the miracle of man. When does human life begin? Why are science reporters so credulous? Human origin, the scientific imagination at play. How much can evolution really accomplish? So these are not, despite being evolutionnews.com, there's no real science here. More Cambrian woes for evolution. What is ID and how should we defend it? New forms or new form of biological self-replication. Yeah, so that's just to give you a flavor of the content we can expect here. After complaining about a podcast by Michael Egnor and Casey Luskin, and about Stephen Meyer's recent Newsweek piece, atheist biologist Jerry Coyne. I don't know why we need to put atheist there. I don't think that has too much to bear on what he's talking about when he's talking about biology. That atheism is not going to come into play there. Whether or not he believes in a God is not going to come into play on how he handles his interpretations of the data collected in biological research in order to write his papers and to put out his reports. So yeah, turns almost directly to complaining about the article in the New Yorker that the author of Why Evolution is True would not like it is predictable from the headlines. The bizarre bird that breaks the tree of life. In subheads, Darwin thought that family trees could explain evolution. The Hoatzin suggest otherwise. Oh boy. Coyne dismissed the headline as clickbait, rightly so, because it's clickbait. Yet there's a problem with the bizarre bird that would have earned my click had journalist Ben Crair paid it the attention it deserves. Notes Crair, fossils that resemble Hoatzin have been found in Europe and Africa, but today the bird can only be found in the river basins of the Amazon and Orinoco of South America. A delightful evolutionary conundrum. Europe, Africa, and South America? As you may anticipate, while the New Yorker article is not about this, the really entertaining difficulty has to do with biogeography. While these birds are bad at flying, evolutionists have been forced to credit Hoatzin, rhymes with Watson's, with some impressive rafting. Unbelievably impressive. Dr. Luskin has written here about the case of the mysterious Hoatzin. Biogeography fails neo-Darwinism again. Okay, so I'm going to read this, but before I do, I want to address rafting again because, oh my gosh, we have so much trouble with this in the creationist community. So when we talk about rafting and these periods of time when this rafting took place, from Africa to South America, got that backwards with the way you're seeing me, so it would be from Africa to South America. Okay, so you have these land masses that are this far apart now, right? But they've moved that far apart. Long ago, they were this far apart. And the mid-Atlantic ridge is in between there. When these were closer together, that ridge was higher, the Atlantic Ocean was shallower, and it was scattered with islands. It was kind of like the Caribbean, like between South America and North America, like the Caribbean area there, or between Indonesia and Southeast Asia and Australia, like that area there. And we know that happened in those areas as well. Organisms are able to what they call island hopping, which is through a combination of self-propelled momentum, so swimming or flying or gliding or what have you, from one island to the other to have access to unobtained resources or resources without competition. Organisms do that. We see that today as well. We see animals migrate to new islands. That's why Florida has a green iguana problem. It's not through pet introduction like what we see with the pythons, but because green iguanas, the more hurricanes we have, the more green iguanas wash up on the Florida shores and spread and propagate throughout the land. So we see rafting. We know it happens. And we know these continents were close together. It didn't just happen with the Hoatzin, or the Hoatzin's ancestors. It Happened obviously with Matt Powell's famous surfing monkeys. They did not surf; they rafted and island hopped like they do today. There are Caribbean islands that had monkey and sloth populations. In the Caribbean, how did they get there? Were they created there? No, they rafted there from South America. We've wiped most of them out. Again, I keep harping on this, but the Holocene extinction event wiped most of these island fauna, the island monkeys and sloths out. But yeah, the Caribbean was rich with primates. We know that they raft. Tarantulas rafted. The tarantulas we have in South America are descended from African stock as well, and they rafted across and island hopped across probably on foliage and mats. There's snakes and a lot of animals that came from Africa and inhabited South America, mostly small animals, cavimorph rodents. That's the other one I was thinking. Because cavimorph rodents, closest rodent relatives are in Africa, or African rodents. So just to give you an idea of how island hopping works and why we understand that that's the way that these organisms move from one continent to the other. Back when they were closer together, we're probably talking maybe early Cretaceous, early to late Cretaceous for these island hopping events, but they may have happened earlier. It may have been something that it came into play maybe earlier in the Mesozoic. I'll have to look at the dates for the Hoatzin specifically. But all of these happened within the same range of time where there was essentially a archaeoplagio between Africa and South America, or what we can infer that. And there's still some islands in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge that pop above sea level. Of course, you got like St. Helena, you got Bermuda, things like that. So yes, it's a real phenomena, and they're going to be incredulous about it. So hang in there and let's go for this ride from 2009. In 2009, National Center for Science Education's Eugenie Scott suggested that scientists should not admit when the evidence contradicts some evolutionary hypothesis, but should rather say that it sheds new light on this part of evolution. Since then, I've kept an eye out for that similar language. Right, because we don't say this proves or disproves anything. We add it to a network of data that we draw conclusions from, and we do account for anomalies that would disprove certain aspects of evolution, different evolutionary hypothesis, and we find out new stuff like when we were studying Drosophilus, when we found out that the gene for allowed for, because they have red eyes, it was linked directly to the sex genes of the organism, so you could only alter the colors of the male Drosophilus's Drosophili of its eyes, because those two genes were linked. So I mean, that's the thing that we learned, and then we updated the way that we understand the genetics of organism based on that. That there could be a suite of characteristics that come together within the genetic code that are intrinsically locked together. For example, a recent article in Science Daily was titled "Across the Atlantic on Flotsam, New Fossil Findings Shed Light on the Origins of the Mysterious Bird Hoatzin." According to the article, Hoatzin lacked a known fossil record outside of South America until recently, when a team consisting of German, Brazilian, and French researchers not only described the earliest known fossil find of the mysterious bird group, but also produced the first proof outside of South America. Apparently, the fossil bones from Namibia, Africa, are about 17 million years old and have the right characteristics to identify them as belonging to Hoatzin. However, finding extinct Hoatzin-like birds in Africa poses a problem for Darwinian biogeography. I'll let the article explain. When two related animal groups are discovered on different continents, this can be explained in principle by two mechanisms. Either the continents were once connected by land, or the distribution took place directly across the water. Africa and South America were once part of a supercontinent called Gondwana, but this had already broken up much longer than 20 million years ago. True. The continent began being separated by the Atlantic. So Hoatzin must have crossed the ocean at some stage in order to get from one continent to the other. As the bird, which is especially poor long-distance flyer, managed to cross over 1,000 kilometer wide, even if flying capability of the Hoatzin's ancestors were better, it's highly unlikely that it could have managed this distance in the air, right? Because just because the islands aren't connected to each other does not mean that they're the same distance apart immediately as they are now. It does not mean that there aren't islands in between. Gerald Mayer and his colleagues from Brazil and France have an explanation that is somewhat unexpected for birds. We assume that the bird crossed the Atlantic upon drifting flotsam. This means of travel using flotsam is already familiar with regard to some primates, rodents, and lizards, but it will be the first proof of similar journeys by a bird. Okay, I get it. When common descent cannot explain observed biogeographic data, just assert that your organism rode on a raft across vast kilometers of ocean, and presto, you solved the problem. Right, because that is something that happens and is observed and known to take place among organisms. And maybe not in a single event. Maybe population got rafted out to an island and lived there for 8 billion years, or not 8 billion, 8 million years before another organism got flushed out to mainland South America where they survived. You don't know that it what kind of time frame that it took place. You're talking, we have millions of years for this organism's ancestors to have crossed these island chains. It happens today, and islands again. And they're talking about flotsam. They're not saying that they made the whole journey on. They got on a log and went from Africa straight to South America nonstop. That's not how we generally assess rafting phenomena. That's not how we've. Again, I can cite back to the green iguanas because the biogeography there between North and South America across the Caribbean is a good comparative analysis. The green iguanas didn't just come from they didn't come from Venezuela in South America and just get all the way to mainland Florida. No, they've rafted out and established populations on islands a little at a time over decades through rafting events, and again, they swim as well, and birds can swim too, but they redistribute themselves over long periods of time. This isn't a population showed up on in a foliage mat and established, and now they're established in South America. That's not how it went down. Where was I? And of course, you can't have just one rafting Hoatzin. There must be at least two, or perhaps one brought its clutch of eggs along on the raft's voyage. Or your rafting Hoatzin will become an evolutionary dead end. And there were probably lots of rafting events and organisms that rafted to South America from Africa, because it was a pretty common thing that was happening during this period, that did not make it and did not establish populations. Maybe when they got to South America, there was something else already in that ecological niche, and they couldn't survive because they couldn't compete. Factors come into play. Different factors come into play. The authors don't think the rafting hypothesis is a problem since supposedly we've already seen the primates, rodents, and lizards did the same thing. But what's the evidence that primates, rodents, and lizards cross the ocean on rafts? As I explained here, or Jonathan M. explained here, the evidence against biogeographical data that refutes common descent. With primates, for example, New World monkeys are said to descend from African monkeys, but New World monkeys appeared in South America at a time when the continents were separated by 1,000 kilometers of ocean. Proponents of common descent aren't worried. They can just create myths about seafaring monkeys to solve. Is that going to give you a link to Matt Powell's video? That'd be funny if it was. It's not, though. To solve the problem. Never mind that monkeys have high metabolism and are hard to imagine how they could possibly survive such a trip. That's because modern monkeys do have that metabolism, and yes, it would be difficult. There are still primates and more primitive monkeys that can enter a torpor state. And when the New World monkeys split off from the Old World monkeys, they were still in a state where they were able to go into like a torpor state's like a pseudo hibernation. They lower their body temperature, lower their heart rate, become sleepy. Yeah. And again, this is assuming that they had to make the 1,000-kilometer journey in one go, not that a population made got washed out on a 50-mile journey out to an island, established themselves there, but developed a population. Maybe there's another island chain 10 miles away, and they got one another in the group got washed out there in a storm surge over generations and generations. Everything does not have to happen now in order for the theory, the rafting hypothesis to be established. It doesn't have to make the full journey in one go. It doesn't have to be one organism. They could have even, you got to think about the population that gets out to the island that's 50 miles away. That population is isolated. Say they're isolated there for 200,000 years. They've evolved. That's the different species now that's on this island, right? Maybe they evolved living on this island to eat stuff that washes ashore too, because island resources can sometimes be limited. So they start becoming more comfortable hanging out on the shoreline, or even in the surf. And as generations go on, they start to get more comfortable with moving out into the water. That could also trigger an organism to venture further out to sea and get washed away to a different island or different continent, even in those circumstances. So there are a lot of factors that could come into play. I think it's just silly to think it had to happen all at once. Another recent article at BBC News notes that this same problem besets evolutionary thinking about South American rodents. We're talking cavimorphs, and I bet they're not even going to talk about spiders. Tarantulas are my favorite one of these groups that made this migration. They talk about primates, rodents, and lizards. Where were we? Mm-hmm. No one really knows how they got there, but scientists have speculated that some small animals could have made the journey by sea. They could have got there on some rafts of vegetation, said Dr. Croft. And that maybe sounds like a fantastic tale, but the fact we do see things like this happening today, you can get big log jams of vegetation that get pushed out of rivers during storms. And often you will see mammals on them. The odds of them making this crossing are obviously very low, but after millions and millions of years, the odds of some animals making it go up considerably. And we keep finding new clades that did this. So you're not making the point that you think you're making, Dr. I guess this is, they're using Dr. Luskin's, let's see, this is David Klingerhofer. You're making, the more animals that you point out that made this journey, the less robust your argument becomes, because it's clear that something's happening to allow for interchange between these two continents. I don't understand your point. Let me get this straight. Since we know that common descent is true, and since the rodents, monkeys, and hoatzin exist on continents separated by vast spaces of ocean with no land-based migrational pathways, the fantastic rafting tale must be true. And island hopping. I know you focused just on the rafting, but like he said here, after millions and millions of years of moving on these vegetation rafts and other methods of getting moved from one island to another via island hopping, you get organisms moving, making this migration. We see it today. It's not speculative. This is something that's observed. Rats caught in shrubs for a couple of days after a storm, perhaps. But do we observe mammals or birds rafting across the ocean? Yes. Thank you for asking. If two similar species separated by thousands of kilometers across oceans cannot challenge common descent, what biogeographical data can? The way evolutionists treat it, there's virtually no biogeographical data that can challenge common descent, even in principle. If that's the case, then how can biogeography be said to support common descent in the first place? No, it's falsifiable. It's definitely falsifiable, but you just are ignoring factors of the evidence and what we know about ecology. You're using your own incredulity about the way that organisms move from one space to the other in order to dismiss or ignore these facts that we see and are observed. So you can make a claim for. I don't even know what your claim is here, because this doesn't, assuming that this evolution news is trying to present itself from an ID perspective and not a Christian perspective specifically, I challenge why evolution itself and biogeographical data specifically as well, why they dismiss intelligent design, because in intelligent design to what? Does your intelligent design not make animals capable of rafting across vast spaces of ocean? Is there a reason in the intelligent design model that we couldn't have animals rafting across the Atlantic? So I would love to have an explanation of that. Here we go. We're going to wrap this up here with this last paragraph. Very busy ocean travel. Dr. Luskin concludes that with an excellent question. Paleontologist Gunter Beckley comments similarly on the difficulty posed for Darwinists. Yes, even rodents and birds are believed to have crossed the ocean on rafts. It looks like there was some very busy ocean travel going on in those times, which suddenly stopped as soon as humans could have observed and recorded it. Rafting animals may be my all-time favorite evolutionary conundrum, and now you know why. I know why. It's because the Panama Canal Panama Isthmus was open, so there was a current that flowed from the Pacific. Again, I've got to remember you guys are backwards, from the Pacific through South America and went down along the African coast and pushed back under. That is what carried all this stuff. So yeah, there would have been like a constant, almost like a river flow from the coming out of the Caribbean, going east towards the African coast, then cutting south and pushing, and then when you get down to the equatorial region, pushing back westward. It would have created a current that was constantly flowing and carrying whatever flotsam and jetsam got caught up in it, because this area was scattered with islands during this time period, during the centuries that South America and Africa were closer together. North America was closer to Europe. and the mid-Atlantic ridge was more raised up. So yeah, rafting animals, they are an interesting fact of science that we observe. And having incredulity about this is not making a good case for you, David. But I appreciate you giving me content to talk about, because I wasn't sure what I was going to do for Creation Watch today, so you fell into my lap. And I thank the people from Answers in Atheism, Speed of Sound, and the gang for turning me on to evolution news, because I had totally forgotten about it until we were looking at something in here just the other day. All right, so I'm probably going to be wrapping up here pretty quick. I didn't plan this show for more than an hour and a half. So yes, the Great American Biotic Interchange won't be for another 11 to 16 million years. Yes, so that was that. The isthmus was open for travel, and it caused the currents in the ocean were very different. There was no, they call it the horse latitude in the Atlantic, where it gets really still because that water was very brisk. Hey, Ian Davenport, good to see you. Thank you for making it in. Big zebras here. Let's wrap up those old world monkeys. We are old world monkeys. My whole side chat's full of old world monkeys. Because you never outgrow your ancestry. All right, so I wanted to talk about this real quick because I got accused of being pharmakia in a chat so some time ago. It was with some Creationist Q type people. I go in there and just play with them. So I didn't know the word. So I looked it up and I got to talking about it. Again, I was using another conversation with Andrew last night to kind of push my transitions forward, but we were just talking about it last night, and I was mentioning conspiracy theories, and I brought up pharmakia. So I have been struggling to understand the Greek word pharmakia found in the New Testament. What exactly is pharmakia? Is it really the use of medication? What was pharmakia in biblical time? And what is modern pharmakia? I would like an in-depth, exhaustive answer on the context and meaning of pharmakia in biblical times and how it relates to our time. 3 points on pharmakia: translation, practice, and interpretation. So we're going to know what pharmakia is. Just so if you ever hear it, if you ever get accused of being pharmakia, because it's apparently it's something that this extremist evangelicals like to call modern medical practice and vaccinations and things like that. So I think there are really 3 questions here. One about translation, one about practice of medicine, and one about the interpretation of today. First, translation. The word pharmakia is very much like our word for drugs. That is, it can refer to many things. When I use the word drugs, I can be referring to Tylenol, which can be purchased over the counter, or the prescription drugs, which require oversight of a physician. But I can also be referring to illegal drugs such as meth. Which I am referring to will depend entirely on the context. Generally, when someone uses the word drug, they have specific meaning in mind rather than all 3. The word pharmakia is much the same. It has a range of meanings and can refer to magic, but it very often refers to the practice of medicine or what might be called the healing arts. Liddell Scott, a Greek English lexicon. It does not refer to both of these things at the same time. It depends on the context. In the New Testament, the word pharmakia occurs 3 times. In Galatians 5:19 through 21, Revelations 9 through 21, and 18 through 23. Each time it is translated as sorcery or magic, and it is something that is spoken of in a negative term. The translator has chosen this definition because of the context. It does not mean that every possible definition of the word pharmakia is condemned. It depends on context. Second, you ask if the practice of medicine is condemned in the New Testament. By no means. There are 2 verses that point to a positive view of the practice of medicine. Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. That's Matthew 9:12, Mark 2:7, and Luke 5:31. Why say that the sick have need of physicians if medicine is condemned? And Colossians 4:14 brings greetings from Luke the physician. Why would Luke's profession as a physician be mentioned if it were viewed as inappropriate or tantamount to sorcery? The New Testament certainly recognizes that healing can occur in other ways besides through the care of a physician. Jesus is presented as a quintessential healer. Both Mark and Luke tell stories about a woman who had been ill for many years and who had seen many physicians, none of whom were able to help her. Mark 5:26, Luke 8:43. This does not condemn the medical profession, but rather describes the desperate state of the woman. Third, interpretation for today. Healing is a complex process. Most physicians today would agree with this, and I believe such a view is present also in the New Testament. It involves individuals such as family or friends who support us. Think of the 4 friends who carry the paralytic to Jesus. It involves treatment by physicians and licensed mental health care specialists, and may include the appropriate use of specific drugs. It involves faith. That is, trust in God. It also involves our own willingness to engage in actions and activities that promote health. The term pharmakia, an abstract noun meaning sorcery, magic, the practice of magic arts. The concrete noun is pharmacon. Necropharmacon, that's going to be my band. Necropharmacon. Whose primary meaning is poison. The secondary meaning is magic potion or charm to achieve a desirable objective. And its tertiary meaning is medicine, remedy, or drug for healing. The above term, used from the time of Homer in the 8th century BC down to New Testament time, and known both to Greeks and Jews. In modern times, the tertiary meaning prevails, as, for the example, the term pharmacy, a place to obtain healing medicines. All right, pharmakia in ancient Greek is a series of vowels I don't know how to pronounce. The use of a drug, potion, spell, and or poison, witchcraft, magical potions. In Koine Greek, especially in usage by ancient Jews and Christians, the word sorcery and magic. So yeah, that's pharmakia. Pharmakia, and when I talked to people about pharmakia, I believe that they were accusing me of black magic. I can't be 100% sure that that's what the accusation was. They were using it to disparage the medical field and having a regular physician who you do checkups with, and getting prescribed treatments for things like blood pressure and cholesterol and things like that. That was considered pharmakia. They were using those drugs to control my mind and make me, I guess, make me an atheist, make me an evolutionist. I'm not sure, but that was the argument thrown at me. I don't know if you have been called pharmakia, or if you've been accused of participating in pharmakia. they called me Pharmakia, which was, I was assuming like saying it was a noun for me. Brie is Pharmakia, but when I read into it, it's more like it's a practice. So a practitioner of Pharmakia, maybe the proper terminology that I'm looking for. I'm not 100%, but now you know if someone is saying that you are associated with Pharmakia, what exactly they're accusing you of. They think modern medical practices, and not the person who wrote the article. Obviously, that article was not written specifically from the point of view of these conspiracy folks. That medicine is black magic and potions that should be avoided. Strange but true tales from the creationist and from the conspiracy crowd. All right, so that has been live from the Hive for Saturday, July 23rd. I think I accidentally put the date as 24th. I didn't mean to do that on the description. I'll have to fix that. But that was live from the Hive. We had our top 5 megalodon sightings, which none of them to me were convincing that this is a megalodon. They all look like the potential for an alternative explanation, and going with megalodon was far-fetched. There was the what did I do for Creation Watch? Oh yeah, the Hotson and rafting again with the rafting. People, come on, it's not a good argument. You stop using it because it's observable. We know it happens. Even with animals with high metabolism, they can move from one landmass to another by rafts. It's not a thing that's questionable. And then, of course, we last wrapped up with I wanted to go over what Pharmakia was and how it's being depicted by modern conspiracy corners. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today in the Hive. It's been a spectacular morning, so glad I got lots of action going on my side chat, and everybody's enjoying and engaging with the content. So please remember to be kind, to take care, and we will see you next Saturday.